Hello my fellow ARKS OPS, PSO God here with an in-depth video about the Hunter class and how they operate. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. The Hunter class uses the following weapons: swords, partisans, and wired lances, with an exception of using gunblades, which all classes can use the gunblades. The photon arcs for this class has a good pool of PAs. Rising Edge launches the target into the air and allows for mid-air combos. This photon arc can be charged to increase the number of attacks. The first charge does 3 hits and the second final charge does 4 hits. Twister Drop makes you jump high and perform a whirling attack, and then a drop attack accompanied by a shockwave. Nova Strike is a spinning get-off knockback attack. This photon arc also has a 2-charge mode. The first charge does 3 hits and the second charge does 4. Ride Slash is a PA that lets you hop aboard your sword and assault your foes. This PA has a 2-stage charge. Using this in mid-air eliminates the animation done on the ground. Crosscut is your bread and butter. This photon art is useful for mobbing and bosses. When an opportunity from a boss presents itself, commit to using this photon art. Blade Bash is a photon art that stuns mobs. You can perform this art on bosses, but this won't stun them. Sonic Arrow is a slash projectile you launch towards your foe. If you master Perfect Guard, a left skill ring for the Hunter, Perfect Guard Sonic Arrow will be perfect for you. Merciless Throw skewers the target and then flings the target in any chosen direction done by the player. This works on bosses, but you will see a white ball of light instead. Guilty Break is a get in close to deal damage and a mobility photon art. Charging this increases Guilty Break's speed of travel, distance, and power. Sacrificial Bite siphons the target photons to restore PP. Absorbing more increases the duration of the effect and the amount of PP recovered. And lastly, for swords, Blaze Parry. This photon art is a 6-hit combo. This PA guard against an enemy attack to nullify and strengthen your own string of attacks. For this to happen, know your enemy attack patterns for one thing. Once you have that down, use this photon art, then the weapon action, which it is your guard, a second later before the enemy hits you. For the Hunter class, each weapon has a gauge bar. This becomes unlocked by investing points in your skill tree, which I will get to later. Sword focus gauge fills up each time you inflict damage to an enemy. Once filled, your PA charge time shortens and can be used more frequently. Also, over time the gauge depletes, so have that in mind. Next is Partisan. This weapon is much faster than a sword. Once equipped, the gauge is a little different from the sword gauge. There are 3 ways to charge it. The first method is by guarding. The second is by attacking and then waiting for the second animation, thus charging the gauge. And lastly, after using the photon art on the ground, the second animation occurs, charging the gauge. Speaking of photon arts, Whirlwind Sweep is an aerial of effect attack that hits enemies near you. Sudden Tempest is a 4-hit frontal slash with short distance, great for crowds of mobs. Impact Rise strikes a target with the hilt and then slash into the air. Not a hard-hitting PA, but it has its use. Zenith Throw unleashes a series of thrusting attacks. Then use the tip of the weapon to hurl the enemy in any direction of your choice. Rave Drop bamboozles a target with wild-like dance-like movements as you unleash a string of attacks. Decisive Sweep is a horizontal strike that hits enemies with a single hit. This is a 1-stage charge. Charging this attack will increase its power. Assault Buster unleashes a thrusting attack that closes the distance between you and the target with a single step. This can be charged to increase its power. Bandersnatch unleashes 2 attacks, then step back after the 3rd hit. This creates a spacing between you and the target. However, if you perform this in mid-air, you won't step back, of course. Sacred Skewer hurls your weapon into the air, sending a photonic lance piercing down through the target. Raptor fires a lance projectile that latches on the target. Once latched, it will not detonate until you do damage. The more damage you do to the target, the powerful it will be once detonated on the target. This PA can also be charged. And lastly, Rain of Tears. Hold the Photon Arc button to unleash a series of thrusting attacks, finishing with one mighty thrust at the target. You can also release it midway. Wire lances are different from the other two weapons I mentioned. These hit just as hard, but they're grappling based. Each time you use a PA, it consumes one bar from the gauge. Just like the Partisan, of course, to fill the gauge, you must do damage towards the enemy. Wire Driver grabs a target, then smashes them into the ground. Groppo Kick grabs a target and uses the force of the retracting wires to unleash a strong kick, quite useful when giving them the boot. Heavenly Drop grabs a target and soars high into the air with them before stammering them back down into the ground. Cyclone Driver grabs a target and whirls it around at high speeds, damaging both it and the surrounding enemies. Twist Driver grabs the target and then releases it, spinning at high speed, which can draw in and damage other foes. Shock Tether grabs the target, then zaps it with electricity, repeatedly pressing the button to increase the number of hits. You must find the sweet spot in order to catch the opponent, or when your opponent is immobilized. Full Crom swing hooks onto an empty space and unleash a back and forth swinging attack. I don't know how and why, but this is Sega PSO2 logic. Cerberus Dance taps into the lance's unique properties and unleash a flurry of blows, while Cyclone swings the weapon from a standing position, unleashing a string of attacks on surrounding targets. Rising Kaiser hurls the weapon into the ground, attacking foes by shooting back up from beneath them. And lastly, Spin Dance. This PA is not just for mobility. This PA deftly avoids enemy attacks while unleashing attacks of your own. Pressing in a direction will alter the PA's trajectory. Now on to the next matter at hand. Which subclass should you choose? It comes down to personal preference. If you want to have access to tech, you can go Hunter Bouncer with a pure melee mag or Dex mag for Bouncer subclass. If you go the Dex route for your mag, the skill on the Bouncer class, Bouncer's mag, converts 200 melee and tech as long as you have the Bouncer as a subclass. I haven't tried this combo, but the next class I would say would be Summoner. You will have access to tech along with other useful skills. Let me know in the comments below if you tried this class combo. Now, if those classes does not suit your subclass, then the next one I would say is Braver as a subclass or Fighter. For the Braver, a pure Dex mag synergizes well due to the skill Braver mag. Worry not, my fellow ARKS OPS. I will leave the skill simulator link below. There will be some skill points left for you to play around to suit your playstyle. The last class combo I will mention because I tried this will be Hunter Tector. It may not seem beneficial, but this class combo is quite nice and odd. Try it out. And this wraps it up for today's video. If you find this quite helpful, be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel for more class content. Until then, my fellow ARKS OPS, take care.